Welcome to the Dr. Adoni Show. Fans of Dr. Adoni call him the great genius, a figure that Nostradamus wrote about. His theories in math and astrophysics are used by government agencies. His theory E has proven Newton and Einstein are wrong. His prime algorithm is used by the NSA. His planetary distance formula is used by NASA to find new planets. His EOE theory is used by the USGS in earthquake prediction modeling. He founded 2 different think tanks, including Helix Q, the artificial intelligence think tank. Dr. Adoni is the founder of the cryptocurrency BizBytes. Dr. Adoni is also the founder of the One Media Network. One Media produces dozens of podcast shows for the iPodcast network.
This is Dr. Saul Adoni. Welcome to another segment of the Dr. Saul Adoni Show. You can find more segments at sauladoni.com and ipodcast.org. Sauladoni.com is SOLADONI.com.
This is Dr. Saul Adoni. Today's video is about climate change, the facts, and the crazy lies that are all over the media about what's going on the planet. Go to my website, sauladoni.com. That's SOLADONI.com. Also well known as Solog, my religious name. It's SOLLOG.com. Now, since the 1990s, I've been actively involved in an organization that I founded called GREPA. It's the Global Renewable Energy Production Agreement. So since the 1990s, I've been telling humanity we need free, clean energy for everyone. Hydro, wind, thermal, etc. Now, the base reason is to make humanity have an equal footing as far as countries if everyone has free, clean, green energy. Also, it is excellent for the planet. We get away from fossil fuels because green energy is cleaner. Now, since that time, the last few years, we've seen a real big push about climate change. Well, people, you need to educate yourself real fast on the real climate of the Earth. Go to Google and look up 20,000 sea level rise. And there you'll see, right at the top, from the Smithsonian Institute, over the past 20,000 years, sea level has climbed 400 feet. I believe it's almost 450. So we have over 20,000 years of sea level rise of 400 feet. What that is approximately 2 feet for every century. So right now we're supposed to be rising about less than a foot every century, which is less than half of what it's been doing for the past 20,000 years. So people, the ocean's been rising since we're coming out of an ice age. Go back 20,000 years ago when the Earth was at a glacial maximum, the seas were 400 feet lower. I mean, this is just a fact. Now, instead of 2 feet every century, we're rising about a foot a century. So we're actually way below the average for the past 20,000 years. You can go read up on sea level rise. You click one of the first links on the Smithsonian site. And they tell you, look, it's been hundreds of feet. The seas have risen in 20,000 years since the end of the last ice age. NASA has this excellent graph showing 20,000 years ago how low the seas were and how high they are today. So there's the dramatic increase. It's going up 2 feet every century. Now, the past 4,000 or 5,000 years, it's been slowly going up about a foot every century is our rate right now. The media is telling you that climate change is happening because of carbon. It's not. It's happening because of a Milanovich cycle. It means the sun and the tilt of the earth as it orbits the sun, precession. The earth is actually in a range of temperature that creates these ice ages and ice melts due to the tilt of the earth and precession and other cycles. But they're all known as Milanovich. So you can go to NASA and read up how for almost 1 million years carbon's been within a short range of 200 and 300 parts per million. And yet ice ages come and go. Okay? So it's not CO2 that's changing the climate. Matter of fact, CO2 has been significantly higher hundreds of millions of years ago, and if not 50 million years ago when the dinosaurs were here. Carbon during the dinosaur age was 4,000 to 8,000 parts per million. That's 10 times higher than the 400 parts per million that we're at now. Now what happens is the higher the carbon is, the better it is for plants. Plants grow larger with more CO2. Larger plants, more plant life, oxygen levels rise. When the oxygen levels get higher, animals grow bigger. So it's a cycle, people. Yes, for 1 million years we've had pretty stable CO2. But we still had ice ages and sea rise and sea falls. So it's not CO2 that's the motor of this stuff. These cycles are caused by Milanovich cycles, precession, etc. So once you start understanding that this is a natural cycle, as the universe today shows, the different tilts, the different orbits of Earth, and how the sun is actually fueling these cycles of ice ages. And you start to realize that the CO2 information is not the main trigger of why oceans rise. Yes, CO2 has been going up since the industrial age. It's a lot more than just fossil fuels. A lot of the CO2 and methane is being released from just the thawing of the ice and the polar caps, the permafrost melting, etc. So it's not just man-made, as the media wants you to believe. Now, I'm all for moving away from fossil fuels. That's why I founded CREPA. So I am for clean, green energy. Free, clean, green energy. Instead of government spending all their money on ammunitions and weapons, they should be putting it into clean energy grids. Now, the natural state of Earth the past 300 million years is it's much warmer and much more water in the oceans. As a matter of fact, most of the past 300 million years is this site, USF Education, it's a Florida university, states most of the 300 million years Florida was underwater. So that's the natural state of Earth, that Florida shouldn't even be above sea level. When the polar caps are melted, yes, the oceans are 250 feet or so higher, if not 300 feet. And a lot of areas around the coast are way underwater. But this has been happening for thousands of years. You go back here and you see when the oceans were around here, 200 feet lower. Go out 200 feet, off of the coast of Japan, you see lost civilizations, cities on the coastline that no longer exist. So, humans gravitate towards coastal areas. Coastal areas get wiped out, civilizations get wiped out. But humanity and mankind goes on. So, you need to get inland, long term, 300 feet above sea level, and that's about the maximum the oceans will rise from where we're at right now. So as long as you're 300 foot above sea levels, you don't have an issue. Yes, areas that we don't farm in will have to be farmed in. Other areas where we used to farm won't be able to be farmed. So humans are pretty intelligent. They can create new farming areas. They can create new cities inland. Matter of fact, I hate the idea of cities. Humans should live out all over the place, not just in concentrated areas. It's the cities that create a lot of problems on the environment. So, Florida's normally underwater. Florida will go back underwater. Because that's the normal situation for Earth. That's the normal climate. It's much hotter. It's much wetter. This is historical facts, people. Now, a lot of people, especially the younger people, are being influenced by this little girl here, Greta Thunberg, 16 years old. Fine. If she was for free, clean, green energy, great. But she's a fearmonger. She's a high school dropout with Asperger. And she's scaring young kids that there's no future. No, there is a future. Okay? Move inland. Create new farming areas. Stop listening to fearmongers. This kid knows nothing about Milanovich Cycles. This kid knows nothing about how the normal climate of Earth is much different than what we have right now. So stop listening to fearmongers. Nor the media about CO2 is causing climate change. No, it's the sun. It's Milanovich cycles. Yes, CO2 can contribute. The higher it gets, the warmer it gets. But a lot of the CO2 in the air right now doesn't necessarily come from the actions of humans. A lot of it is just the melting and the permafrost and the methane and everything else that's going up into the atmosphere. So, people, educate yourself. Stop being led by people that are high school dropouts with no concept of physics and what's really going on. Do the research yourself. Just go to Google. See. It's 400 feet, people. These are facts. 400 feet of sea rise in 20,000 years with stable CO2. So CO2 is not driving it. It's Milanovich cycles. And I'm a person that pushes green energy. Because in the long run, it's better for the planet and better for humans to have a clean environment. And fossil fuels are dirty. And yes, fossil fuels create CO2. But CO2 is not the main driver of us coming out of this ice age. Technically, we're still in this ice age. So Florida goes underwater and there's no polar caps, you're in an ice age. The normal climate of Earth is much hotter and much wetter than what we have right now. So people, educate yourself. Stop being afraid of it's the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. Okay? Civilizations that refuse to move inland have been wiped out for thousands of years. It's been a cycle. Move inland, get above where the ocean can go, and what you create won't go underwater. There's a future, people. Stop being afraid. This is Dr. Saul Adoni, aka Salag. Have a great day.
To listen to more podcasts from Dr. Saul Adoni, you can visit sauladoni.com or ipodcast.org.